By 1939, Italy had economic independence, yet by invading Abyssinia, it further isolated it from the other Western powers and pushed it towards Germany. That would in turn manifest itself in a form of an alliance that led to Germany expanding into Austria and Italy into annexing Albania, which as a result also led to the outbreak of the Second World War. Between 1936 and 1939, Italy was deeply involved in Spain. Spain was in the midst of a massive civil war, and Italy supported the conservative nationalist General Franco. Thousands of Italian troops and large quantities of weapons were sent to support Franco's forces. Italy's navy assisted as well. Mussolini's hope was that France would become involved, and that would allow Italy to seize Corsica and parts of southeastern France that Italy desired. This did not happen. Money, troops, and supplies that Italy could not afford were wasted. Perhaps as a result of this failure and the need for a foreign policy success, or in response to Germany's annexation of Austria and most of Czechoslovakia between 1938 and 39, Italy decided to annex European territory as well. Italy had occupied Albania during World War I, but after the war gave it up. During the 1920s, it served as a protectorate, kind of looking over it whether the Albanians wanted it or not. Albania became less democratic throughout the 1920s, much like Italy, and you saw the rise of a king called King Zog I. By 1928, with careful manipulation of parliament, called for revisions to the constitution, allowing a formation of a monarchy, which replaced the republican form of government. This is an excerpt from the History of Albania. In June 1931, a new agreement was signed in Rome. Albania was granted a loan of 100 million gold francs to be paid at the rate of 10 million a year. But these new funds only just covered the maintenance of the government. The country's economy and finance continued to flounder amid growing difficulties, which were made even worse by the effect of the world economic crisis. A year later, Zog was unable to repay the first annuity on the loan, and Mussolini decided this was the moment to act. In exchange for putting off the payment again, he insisted on an Italian-Albanian trade agreement abolishing custom duties or taxes on Italian imports. Zog refused. Mussolini's attempt to gain further control of Albania's economy in 1931 made Zog more weary of Italy. In 1932 and 1933, King Zog closed all schools operated by Italians and removed Italian military instructors and advisors. He hoped to demonstrate independence from Italy. Mussolini responded to these actions by suspending the previous loan of money granted to Albania in 1931. This led to a suspension of government projects throughout the country and an unemployment crisis in the cities. King Zog's bankrupt government appealed to France for financial assistance. French demands on Albania were even greater than Italy's in many ways, calling for Albania to set aside large regions where France could settle its poor farmers. Zog ended discussions with France and returned to negotiating with Italy. Mussolini, in a show of force, landed military troops from Italy's navy in Durazzo in June of 1934, demanding that Zog allow Italian military instructors and advisors back into Albania's military, forbidding the country to join any alliances outside the one it already had with Italy. Italy also required Albania to end all trade restrictions with it and to allow the construction of an improved port so that it could be used as a future naval base for Italy's navy. In March 1939, Italy may have decided to demonstrate its strength and independence to its theoretical partner, Germany. Without informing Germany about its plans, Zog and his government were sent an ultimatum. Italy demanded that Albania allow Italian troops to be garrisoned in various parts of the country, that Albania grant lands to Italian colonists who would automatically become Albanian citizens, and that Zog's government contain an Italian minister to represent Italy's interests. In short, Italy wanted almost complete control over the country. Zog responded by proposing a few limited concessions to Italy, which were rejected. On the 7th of April, 30,000 soldiers supported by aircraft, marines, and ships landed in Albania. Albania's army and volunteer fighters were quickly overwhelmed, and by the 10th of April, all Albania was occupied. Albania was annexed to Italy, and Italy's king was now the king of the Albanians, as well as Emperor of Ethiopia. International responses to the invasion and annexation of Albania were limited. Britain and France were preoccupied with Germany's demands in Poland and therefore did not protest. Neighboring states of Greece and Yugoslavia were afraid of Italian attack, but also hoped to gain slices of Albania and therefore did not protest. The League of Nations had been proven ineffective earlier, so it ignored the situation in Albania. Only the Soviet Union protested Italy's actions. Its condemnation was only verbal, yet aggressive. It was also to no avail. In May 1939, Italy and Germany signed a formal military alliance, commonly known as the Pact of Steel. In this agreement, both states pledged to support each other in case of war. The agreement also called for mutual cooperation in economic areas and sharing of military aid, such as weapons. Verbally, Germany told Italy that any war would not be immediate, so there was no need to be too concerned with war preparations. Italy was clearly not prepared for war. Its economy, always weak compared to many other European states, was in very bad shape. The Great Depression, deficit spending for war preparations, the invasion of Abyssinia, huge military support to General Franco in Spain had depleted the government of funds. Its military was smaller as a result of the economy, and its military supplies had been consumed in these conflicts. By the time the invasion of Albania occurred, one Italian government official stated that if Albania had organized a single fire brigade, Italy's military would have been driven back into the sea. Italy was not remotely prepared for war. Germany seems not to have taken the Pact of Steel very seriously. Some historians believe that the pact was a means of making sure that Mussolini did not build relations with France and Britain so that Germany did not have to be concerned with its border with Italy, a border created by the annexation of Austria in 1938. Additionally, Italy and France shared a border, so the pact could also serve to distract France from any military plans it may have had to attack Germany's western border. Whatever the reason, Germany did not assist Italy in any way with war preparations. It also did not inform Italy until August 1939 that a war might break out between Germany and Poland over the Danzig area. When Italy understood that war was imminent, the Italian government panicked. Mussolini stated clearly that Italy would not be ready for a large war for approximately 3 years. If Germany insisted on going to war, then it would need to supply Italy militarily. Italy handed over an enormous list of military needs, attempting to demonstrate to Germany how unready it was and its displeasure with Germany's probable war with Poland. Germany declined to supply Italy and instead granted Italy the right to remain in the alliance and not fight. Instead, Italy was to supply diplomatic and political support to Germany. Italy agreed readily, hoping that Germany's war with Poland would be limited in terms of time, involvement, and impact on international diplomacy. This is an excerpt of Italian Fascism by Philip Morgan. The news of the German plans for immediate war put Mussolini in a corner. He was bound by the alliance to join Hitler in a war he had not anticipated would happen so soon, and which he knew Italy could not really fight. It was not only a matter of Italy's military and economic unreadiness to sustain a long war. Mussolini and his foreign minister paraded this in front of the Germans in order to get them to delay things or at least accept that the alliance could not be activated then. The other reason or pretext for prevarication was the need for more time to make the Axis popular in Italy and prepare the nation politically and psychologically for war. By 1939, the Italian military was weakened through wars in Abyssinia and Spain from 1935 to 39. During that time, Germany annexed most of Czechoslovakia without informing Italy. Italy was concerned that it appeared weak to Germany and perhaps not relevant. So as a result, it became involved with Albania. Albania was invaded and conquered by Italy in April 1939. The Pact of Steel was signed between Germany and Italy, committing each to the defense of the other by May of 1939. Italy feared German invasion of Poland would drag it into a war it was unprepared to fight. Italy told Germany it was unable to participate in this war for at least 3 years. Germany permitted Italy to support Germany diplomatically and not militarily in case of war. Germany conquered much of northern and western Europe. As a result, Italy declared war on a practically defeated France in June of 1940. So by June of 1940, Germany had conquered Poland, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, and the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and most of France. France was all but defeated by the 10th of June when Italy declared war and began the invasion of France's southeast provinces and Corsica. So this is a conclusion of Italian expansionism. The Great Depression that began in 1929 affected countries throughout the world, politically, economically, and in terms of foreign policy. The great powers of Britain and France were unable to respond to the international crises because of costs and divided governments. The economic crisis led to the rising popularity of communism in Germany, causing conservatives to increasingly turn to the Nazi Party, which took power in 1933. Italy became less dependent on Western states for its economic security and therefore able to exercise more independence in its foreign policy. French plans to contain Germany through close cooperation with Italy and Great Britain, symbolized by the Stresa Front, collapsed with Italy's invasion of Abyssinia. The Abyssinian crisis led to Italy leaving the League of Nations. The unimportance of the International Peace Organization, closer relations between Italy and Germany that would manifest themselves in the form of alliance, the expansion of Germany to include Austria, and Italy's annexation of Albania all led to the outbreak of the Second World War in 1939. By that time, Italy was a much weakened state and dependent on its dominant partner, Germany.